Hi everyone, my name is Mark, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Mary Katherine Higdon was born in 1994 and was a happy child who was always running around, laughing and having a good time. She was known for her sense of humor and would often bring laughter to the room with her witty remarks and impersonations. One of her favorite pastimes was walking around town with her pet frog, which she would proudly parade on a shoestring. Her love for nature and animals was evident from an early age, and she spent countless hours exploring the outdoors and observing the beauty of nature. In addition to being entertaining, Mary had a passion for performing. She often put on plays for her family, captivating everyone with her creativity and imagination. Her family thought Mary was so talented and had a bright future. Growing up, Mary was exposed to guns and became a passionate enthusiast. She learned to respect and handle firearms responsibly, appreciating their power and potential. Mary's love for guns grew as she honed her skills and became a skilled marksman. While in high school, Mary Katherine met the love of her life, Stephen Freeman. Stephen was born on January 1, 1995 in Griffin, Georgia, and was raised alongside his parents and brother. Growing up, Stephen was close with his family and described as a happy child with many friends. His friends described Stephen as a laid-back and chill guy who was always kind and helpful. They said that he truly loved and cared for everyone around him. One of Stephen's favorite things to do was to spend time outdoors in nature. Even though Stephen was close with his parents, he shared an especially strong bond with his mother. When Stephen's mother graduated college after returning to school as an adult, he wrote her a heartfelt letter expressing his admiration for her accomplishments. In the letter, Stephen wrote how he looked up to her every day and loved her to the moon and back. Stephen acknowledged the hard work and determination she had demonstrated during her 2 years working towards her degree. His admiration for his mother was evident in his words, and he expressed his gratitude for the role she played in his life. After meeting in high school, Mary Katherine and Stephen quickly formed a deep connection and were inseparable. What brought them together was their shared love of the outdoors. Whether hiking, camping, fishing, or hunting, the two of them thoroughly enjoyed spending time in nature. Mary Katherine and Stephen's love for the outdoors served as the foundation of their strong relationship. Eventually, Mary Katherine and Stephen graduated from high school, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. As high school sweethearts, they decided to embark on the next phase of their relationship by moving together in a house in Griffin, Georgia. Mary Katherine and Stephen were thrilled about living in their own space. Stephen's mother looked at Mary Katherine as more than just her son's girlfriend. She genuinely regarded her as a daughter and embraced her into their family with open arms. Mary Katherine and Stephen visited Stephen's parents' house every Sunday to have a big family dinner. This tradition brought everyone closer and solidified Mary Katherine's place within the family. Furthermore, Stephen's friends also began to warm up to Mary Katherine. Initially, they were hesitant about the couple's relationship, but as they spent more time together, they couldn't help but notice how well-suited they were. They appreciated how Mary Katherine brought happiness and joy into Stephen's life and admired her love for the outdoors. Stephen worked as a metal worker and repaired roofs, while Mary Katherine was a part-time teacher's assistant at a preschool, St. George's Episcopal School, in Milner, Georgia. In addition to working at the school, Mary Katherine was employed at a sporting goods store where she sold guns. One of Stephen's best friends, Thomas Skinner, worked with Mary Katherine at the sporting goods shop. While working at the sporting goods store, Mary Katherine had the opportunity to learn about basic gun safety. This information included learning to hold, load, and shoot a gun. Like Mary Katherine, Stephen loved firearms. Stephen owned several shotguns and rifles, which he enjoyed using for hunting and target practice. He also kept a Glock 42 in the home for protection. By the summer of 2018, Mary Katherine and Stephen had been together for 7 years and were still living in their apartment in Griffin, Georgia. However, their high school sweethearts' happily ever after came to an end on the night of August 1st, when Mary Katherine made a harrowing phone call to 911. When the dispatcher answered, Mary Katherine screamed, "I accidentally just shot my boyfriend!" Within minutes, The police arrived at Mary Katherine and Stephen's apartment and found Mary Katherine a wreck. Mary Katherine, in a state of hysteria, was crying and hyperventilating as she knelt over Stephen's lifeless body. She screamed, "I cannot lose him! I cannot lose him!" over and over again, her voice filled with anguish and despair. As the police gently guided Mary Katherine away from Stephen's body, they were able to get a better look at his condition. They discovered that he had been shot in the chest, but thankfully, he was still alive. In a desperate effort to save his life, an ambulance was called to transport Stephen to the nearest hospital. Upon arrival at the emergency room, skilled doctors began administering life-saving measures. However, despite the best efforts of the medical staff, Stephen's condition continued to deteriorate. The severity of his injury proved impossible, and he ultimately passed away due to the injuries sustained. Mary Katherine went with the police to the police department for a formal interview after Stephen was transported to the hospital. She started by explaining the events of the night that ended in her shooting Stephen accidentally. According to Mary Katherine, she was handing Stephen the gun because he usually put it on the side of his bed at night for safety. However, Mary Katherine stated that they never kept a bullet in the chamber of the guns in the house. During Mary Katherine's interview, the police were sure they smelt alcohol on her breath. As the police continued to question Mary Katherine, her story about her shooting Stephen changed. Instead of handing the gun to Stephen, she now said that she tossed the firearm to him. The police officers interviewing Mary Katherine were suspicious of her story. They knew that a gun would not randomly go off by being tossed, and someone needed to pull the trigger. Additionally, the sight of Stephen's gunshot wound led them to believe that Mary Katherine must have been directly pointing the gun at him for the bullet to strike where it did. Eventually, during her interview, Mary Katherine said, "I did it out of anger." However, even though the police were recording the interview with Mary Katherine, there was nothing but feedback during the part when she said she shot Stephen out of anger. Still, even without that key piece of the recording, the police felt they had found enough forensic evidence to convince them Mary Katherine intentionally shot her boyfriend, Stephen. At Mary Katherine and Stephen's apartment, the police found evidence that indicated there had been a heated argument between the couple before Stephen was shot. Scattered food throughout the house clearly showed that an altercation had occurred. Additionally, it was discovered that officers had been called to Mary Katherine and Stephen's house 5 times within the last year due to domestic disputes. Furthermore, the police found evidence proving that the gun used to shoot Stephen was loaded on the night of the incident. Despite Mary Katherine's claims to the contrary, the police discovered traces of cooking grease on both the gun and the magazine. This discovery led the police to the conclusion that Mary Katherine, who was preparing dinner at the time, had loaded the weapon. After Mary Katherine shot Stephen, the police conducted interviews with his friends to gather information about their relationship. Stephen's friends stated that the relationship between Mary Katherine and him was characterized by toxicity and constant arguing. They revealed that the couple often engaged in heated confrontations. Stephen's friends described Mary Katherine as possessive and verbally abusive towards him. They said that she exhibited signs of mental instability, which amplified the tension in their relationship. Whenever Stephen left their apartment to seek space away from Mary Katherine, she would relentlessly text and call him, to the point he had to block her. One of the friends disclosed that Stephen confided in him that Mary Katherine had pulled a firearm on him at least 3 times in the past. However, Stephen refrained from reporting these incidents to the police, fearing that Mary Katherine would get in trouble. Stephen's friend emphasized that Stephen's primary concern was ensuring Mary Katherine's well-being, even in the face of his safety. When Stephen's friends heard that Mary Katherine accidentally shot Stephen, they found that hard to believe because they knew she had extensive knowledge on how to handle a firearm. 3 months before Mary Katherine shot Stephen texted a friend saying that Mary Katherine was running around outside, screaming at the top of her lungs, and attempting to shoot him and herself. The following month, Stephen informed another friend that although Mary Katherine had pointed a gun at him in the past, the most recent time, she had a look in her eyes that made him fear that she would actually go through with it. Stephen's friends reported to the police that by July 2018, he was tired of Mary Katherine's behavior and had been contemplating leaving her after 7 years. His plan was to move to a different town while she was out one day without informing her. He feared what might happen if she knew he was leaving her. Police discovered a series of text messages from July 30th, 2018, 2 days before Mary Katherine fatally shot Stephen. The first text message sent by Stephen to Mary Katherine on July 30th read, "Good morning, beautiful. Don't forget." Mary Katherine responded by saying, "Have a great day." Stephen then replied, "You too, love you." However, the police also discovered that the following night, July 31st, Stephen spent the evening at a friend's house and did not return Mary Katherine's texts or calls because the couple was fighting. On the night of the shooting, August 1st, Mary Katherine was at home preparing dinner, but Stephen was not there. She reached out to Stephen's mother, who informed her that Stephen was with his friend. Angry at Stephen, Mary Katherine started driving to his friend's. She knew where he was, and she wanted to confront him. As she drove, she spotted Stephen sitting in the passenger seat of his friend's truck. Mary Katherine pulled alongside Stephen's friend and started to yell at Stephen. Stephen tried calming Mary Katherine down, assuring her he was on his way home. Even though Stephen's friend said Mary Katherine had pointed a gun at him on several occasions, Mary Katherine adamantly denied these allegations. She insisted that she never pulled a gun on Stephen. However, Mary Katherine did admit to having threatened to take her own life a few times with a gun. Stephen's mother later shared her thoughts in an interview, explaining that she believes one of the main reasons why Stephen stayed with Mary Katherine for so long was because she was constantly threatening to take her life. He was terrified that she might follow through on these threats if he left Mary Katherine. According to Mary Katherine, on the night of the incident that led to Stephen's shooting, it was Stephen who escalated the situation and became violent. She claimed that he threw the dinner she had prepared with so much effort in her face. Mary Katherine stated that she only picked up the gun as a means of self-defense and scared Stephen away as she wanted him to leave the apartment. However, she claimed that Stephen lunged at her, which frightened her. And as she backed away, the next thing she knew, Stephen was bleeding from the chest. At the time of Stephen's shooting, Mary Katherine claimed she did not disclose this version of events to the police because she was embarrassed to admit that Stephen had a history of violence toward her. Mary Katherine claimed Stephen had hit her in the past and was controlling. She said he once kicked her out of bed with such force she struck her head on the doorframe. However, Stephen's friends had a different opinion on Mary Katherine and Stephen's relationship. They claimed they witnessed Mary Katherine hitting Stephen, saying she slapped him hard in the face. On the other hand, Mary Katherine's sister had a different opinion on their relationship. She said she saw bruises on Mary Katherine's arm 2 weeks before Stephen was shot. According to Mary Katherine's sister, she pulled Mary Katherine aside and asked her what happened, and Mary Katherine said that Stephen had grabbed her. After the police concluded Stephen's death was a murder, they charged Mary Katherine with murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The state offered Mary Katherine a plea deal, stating that if she pleaded guilty, she would receive a life prison sentence with the possibility of parole. However, despite the appeal of this deal, Mary Katherine ultimately turned down the offer and decided to go to trial, where she would plead her innocence. She pleaded not guilty to the charges against her, arguing that she shot Stephen in self-defense. On June 17, 2019, almost 1 year after Stephen's death, Mary Katherine went on trial for shooting him. The trial brought attention to a tumultuous relationship between Mary Katherine and Stephen. Mary Katherine's attorneys argued that she acted in self-defense, claiming that she was genuinely afraid of Stephen due to his history of violence and abuse. To strengthen their case, they presented evidence to the jury that highlighted Stephen's controlling, manipulative, and dangerous behavior. During the trial, Mary Katherine took the witness stand in her own defense. In her emotional testimony, Mary Katherine opened up about the constant abuse she suffered at the hands of Stephen. She described a pervasive pattern of abuse that spanned multiple forms, including physical, mental, emotional, verbal, and sexual. Mary Katherine testified that Stephen would hit her, verbally humiliate her, and subject her to degrading treatment whenever the opportunity presented itself. According to Mary Katherine, Stephen subjected her to every type of abuse he could. She shared incidents where Stephen would smack her around and verbally abuse her, telling her to do better and be better. The physical and emotional toll of the abuse had left her feeling trapped and fearful for her life. Mary Katherine believed that Stephen's actions constantly threatened her well-being and safety. Mary Katherine's defense presented evidence in the form of a text message Stephen sent to Mary Katherine in which he wrote, "You're going to get punished when I get home." When her attorneys asked what Stephen meant by punishing Mary, Katherine said Stephen would smack her around and tell her to do better and be a better girlfriend to him. Breaking down in tears on the witness stand, Mary Katherine said if she tried to defend her, Stephen would hit her harder. Her defense showed another text to the court in which Stephen told Mary Katherine, "Don't hit me because if you hit me, then I'm just going to hit you back 2 times harder." During her testimony, Mary Katherine claimed that Stephen had a red room, which she described as similar to the room depicted in the popular book series, 50 Shades of Grey. In the red room, she alleges that the two engaged in aggressive and sometimes violent intercourse. To support her claim, her defense attorneys presented the court with a text message from Stephen to Mary Katherine, in which he wrote, "I miss you too much. I'm coming home and you're about to get it bad. You're going to the red room." Mary Katherine also testified that Stephen sexually assaulted her on 2 occasions. One of these incidents occurred after they returned from a vacation to Walt Disney World. According to Mary Katherine, their intercourse was becoming more aggressive, and she expressed her discomfort to Stephen, asking him to stop. However, Stephen allegedly intensified his efforts instead of heeding her pleas, stating that she had received various gifts at Disney World and now owed him what was rightfully his. He reportedly told her that she was going to give him what he wanted and what he deserved. The defense presented additional evidence in the form of text messages from Stephen to support Mary Katherine's claims of abuse. These messages were not only vulgar and threatening, but also demonstrated a pattern of verbal assaults directed towards Mary Katherine. They had over 60 pages of text messages from Stephen that showcased his abusive behavior. One particular message sent while Stephen was out with a group of friends was particularly disturbing. In the image, Stephen was seen holding a large dead fish aloft, accompanied by a caption that read, "This is you, bitch." Another message presented to the court was one from Stephen after Mary Katherine cheated on him. Stephen wrote he was going to wreck her for wrecking him. Furthermore, the defense alleged that Stephen had a drug and alcohol addiction, which contributed to his violent outbursts. During the conversation regarding the night she shot Mary Katherine, she insisted that she was the one who ended her relationship with Stephen, rather than the other way around. Mary Katherine claimed that Stephen did not take the news well and behaved as if he intended to attack her. Terrified, she said that she resorted to grabbing the gun in self-defense. According to Mary Katherine, the final words she exchanged with Stephen before she fired the weapon were, "Get out of my house!" Stephen's friends and family did not believe Mary Katherine's allegations that he was a violent, dangerous, abusive man. They knew Stephen as a laid-back, friendly, caring person. His mother said she had no idea Stephen was sending Mary Katherine disturbing text messages or threatening her violence, and did not condone it. However, Stephen's mother claimed she thought Stephen only said all of the things he did out of anger. However, during cross-examination, the state confronted Mary Katherine with the fact that she had never reported the alleged abuse Stephen had subjected her to. The state also argued that hours before Stephen was shot, Mary Katherine was searching violent, sexually explicit images on the internet while she was babysitting. Mary Katherine claimed she was only looking at those sites to get ideas to make Stephen happy, hoping it would convince him to stay with her. Additionally, the state told the court that Mary Katherine had altered her story about the night he shot Stephen at least 10 times since her initial interview a year before trial. One of the key pieces of evidence presented in court to support the state's theory that Mary Katherine intentionally shot Stephen was a text Stephen sent her that read, "I know you've pointed a gun at me multiple times already, but last time scared the shit out of me." Furthermore, Stephen's friends also took the witness stand to testify about witnessing the abuse Mary Katherine inflicted on him. Their accounts corroborated the state's argument that Mary Katherine had a history of violence towards Stephen, not the other way around. After the jury deliberated for 4 hours, they returned with a verdict of not guilty of malice murder, felony murder, as well as the lesser charges of assault and possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Mary Katherine was then released from prison. The verdict surprised everyone who knew and loved Stephen, as they were shocked by the decision. Members of the jury later admitted that they all actually believed that Mary Katherine purposely shot and killed Stephen. However, they recognized that there was not enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt why she shot Stephen. This lack of evidence made it difficult to establish whether it was indeed murder or if it was justified as self-defense. Moreover, the jury was unable to reach a consensus on the validity of all the accusations against either Stephen or Mary Katherine.